Well, good evening and welcome. Many of you have been to many events like this in the past, and there is no shortage of hard work that goes into making these successful. So I think it's important to recognize all the people and our staff and Americans Prosperity who helped to make this a successful evening, to help honor Senator Kelly Ayotte and show Senator Thune, who may come and spend some more time with us here in New Hampshire. Just exactly what we're about. So I want to thank the staff who made this possible. I want to thank Senator Ayotte's staff and Andy and John and the rest of the guys who really went above and beyond, and every time I called in a complete panic, they answered my call and didn't just hang up on me, so I appreciate that and thank you. I want to welcome you this evening and let you know I'm sure there are many, many other places that you could be tonight, not the least of which was, as you all know, the 100-year anniversary today of the opening of Fenway Park. And hopefully you haven't looked at the score. It reminds me of a quick story. And thinking about Fenway's anniversary reminds me of this New Hampshire couple that had to move to New York City. And they put their sons in a local school down there, and apparently one day a teacher asked all the students if they were Yankees fans. And all the hands went up except this one young, 7-year-old boy. And when the teacher asked him, "What team are you a fan of?" And he said, "The Red Sox." And she asked, "Well, why?" And he quickly replied, "Well, my mother and my father are both Red Sox fans, so I'm a Red Sox fan. So I'm a Red Sox fan too." And then the teacher indignantly countered, "Well, that's not a good answer, Bobby. What if your parents were both morons? Would you be a moron too?" To which Bobby honestly answered, "No, that would make me a Yankees fan." So for those of you who had the opportunity to join us last year, it was a very special event, not just from the 5 presidential candidates we had on stage last year, but if any of you recall, my wife who's with us tonight was 9 months and like 1 minute pregnant, and the event ended at 11 o'clock and we delivered our son Reagan in honor of the president the following morning, about 4 hours after the event, so thank you. Again, for those of you who were here last year, as you may recall, we honored Ovid LaMontagne as our first conservative of the year. And it was also the night of the royal wedding. So obviously, we're the guys that don't get the Red Sox tickets on the 100-year anniversary, and we're the guys that don't get invited to the royal wedding. So we're stuck on these political things, so I'm very thankful for that. There are a long list of VIPs in the room, and I would be remiss if I attempted to address all of them individually, but I would like to recognize 3 who have both led our state and continue to lead our state in Washington, D.C. and here in Concord. The first of which is Senator John E. Sununu, who is with us this evening. We also have with us the Speaker of the New Hampshire House, Bill O'Brien. And our Senate President, Peter Bracken. Here in New Hampshire, as you know, we're spoiled. We're accustomed to seeing political heavyweights come to our state. We look them in the eye, we shake their hand, we ask them the questions that no one else will ask them. And 2 years ago, when Senator Ayotte ran for office, she took that right to the people and campaigned and said, "I will be available and accessible to each and every person in the state of New Hampshire." And unlike some other senators in our state who hide when there are opportunities to do so, our Conservative of the Year this year has continued to work hard for the people of New Hampshire and be out on every public event that she can, comes home every weekend to spend it with the residents of New Hampshire and see her family, and bring our values, those conservative fiscal values, back down to Washington. So Americans for Prosperity Foundation, if you don't know, is we're committed to educating citizens about economic policies and mobilizing those citizen activists in the public policy process. And we're really just a bunch of grassroots people who decide to get engaged and contact our elected officials when we think something needs to change. From cutting taxes and government spending in order to halt the encroachment of government in the economic lives of citizens, to fighting to get New Hampshire out of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative program, passing right to work. You know, the great part about being part of Americans' prosperity here in New Hampshire is that it's not just being done in New Hampshire. And here's a quick video of some of the work that we do around the country on behalf of our foundation.
Takes place tonight in New Hampshire. Correspondent Molly Lyon has a preview from Manchester.
Tonight's Presidential Summit on Spending and Job Creation, hosted by the New Hampshire chapter of the Americans for Prosperity Foundation, a limited government advocacy group, will give 5 potential Republican White House hopefuls the chance to offer their vision for economic recovery.
5 potential presidential candidates use the same stage in New Hampshire to get their messages across to voters.
A national grassroots political group made a stop in Topeka tonight to talk to residents about the nation's regulatory and energy policies. The Americans for Prosperity Foundations running on a tour was at Ag Hall at the Convention Center.
You are starting a national media campaign this week called Running on Empty, in which you place the blame squarely on President Obama's shoulders.
The regulatory policies of this administration are a key reason, not the only reason, but a key reason for these prices. We don't think you ought to be using government to pick your pet projects for energy when it comes down to prices for Americans going up. And that's what we're finding at Americans for Prosperity Foundation, this tour Running on Empty.
It has been my privilege to run the state chapter of Americans Prosperity here in New Hampshire for the past 4 years. And in addition to that, I have the opportunity to work with the chapters in Maine and Ohio and Connecticut to ensure that we're passing good public policy around the country. And while we're committed to advocating for smaller government and lower taxes and less regulation, with our 29,000 plus members here in New Hampshire, we don't always agree with our friends in the legislature, and some of those friends are in the room this evening. And I can tell you that it's a tough thing when you got to go to Concord and look at the individuals who are writing public policy and tell them you don't agree with them. And we've had some very public battles over the regional greenhouse gas initiative that we don't think that the Senate has taken enough action on. And we've had some very public fights with the House, as they have not been able to override the governor's veto to make New Hampshire a right-to-work state. But that does not mean that we will stop fighting. That does not mean we don't agree with core principles, and that does not mean that that we don't have friends in those elected capacities. You know, when we planned this dinner, there was one person who was part of our chapter who has been the leader to me and a mentor, who couldn't be with us this evening because he took his family down to Washington, D.C. to spend the weekend with Senator Ayotte. And then we changed the date, and his plane ticket was already purchased, and my very, very good friend and our chairman, Tom Thompson, the son of the late Governor Mel Thompson, couldn't be with us this evening because he is waiting to see Senator Ayotte in New Hampshire, in Washington. You know, I could go on about how great Tom is, and if any of you have been to Senator Ayotte's Washington office, that giant moose which sits in her reception area is Oscar, which was Tom's that used to hang in the governor's mansion here, and Tom wrote a nasty note to Governor Lynch and told me he wanted his moose back. That didn't go so well, but it's now in another conservative office, so we're very proud of that. Tom and one other person who couldn't be with us this evening, Phyllis Woods, who was the National Committee woman for New Hampshire, both sent a letter honoring Senator Ayotte tonight. I'm not going to read all of them, but I can tell you just an excerpt of Tom's letter. It says, as the honorary chairman of Americans for Prosperity, I'm disappointed that I will not be with you and many other New Hampshire conservatives this evening to celebrate the special evening to honor you, Senator Ayotte. As you know, Senator, 3 months ago, we set up a trip during school vacation to visit you and Oscar the Moose in Washington, D.C. with our family and 2 grandchildren, Jaden and Claire, and we thank you and your staff for assisting with us. The only problem I had in D.C. was this morning with our tour through the White House, when they asked me if we would please remove the mitt sticker from my shirt. I agreed to do so, but I told him I'd be back shortly next year with a new one that the occupant wouldn't mind so much. Tom's letter just continues and says, Senator Ayotte has upheld and fought for conservative principles with her voting record in the US Senate, and we ask that all the New Hampshire conservatives continue to keep in this fight. This November 2012 election will be a defining moment in our nation's history. Kelly and Joe, my parents are looking down tonight with pride and appreciation that you have picked up the conservative torch and will carry it forward for the sake of our children, our grandchildren, and the future of this great nation. Sincerely, Tom and Sheila Thompson. We are now going to have an opportunity to pause briefly while the dinner is served. We will come back in about 10 minutes. Our program is fortunately on time and will stay that way this evening. We hope to be out by 8:30 so we can all get to bed on time. We have 4 great speakers who you will hear from, not the least of which is Senator Thune, who I hope we will show a proud appreciation to in our state. So thank you. We'll be back in shortly.
GrokTV.